Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com. Paul Harrell, weekdays.
With us here at the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. I want to welcome back to the program, friend of the program. We've got Mr. Jamie Barker is on the line. And Jamie, I want to say congratulations to you, sir. You have this weekend been elected the chairman of the Arkansas Federation of Young Republicans. Congratulations, sir.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And actually, the last time I was on here, I think was the first time you kicked off the Conservative Future program. So it's good to be back. I listened to a few of those, a few friends on there, and it's been a great segment of the show. Yeah,
well, absolutely. That was the first time you came on, and I believe yet you were the first one. And so I things are going great for you. So tell us a little bit about the Federation of Young Republicans here in Arkansas.
Yeah, so the Federation of Young Republicans, I'm the chairman for the statewide chapter. We're a member of the National Federation of Young Republicans. In Washington and Benton County. We've got chapters in Northeast Arkansas, North Central Arkansas, Central Arkansas, Lonoke County, and we're working to get a couple down south in Garland County, that kind of area, and then over toward Warren and Monticello as well.
That's great. That's terrific. So tell me what the process is when you, in terms of, were you running against somebody to get this nod? I mean, what's the process? Do people vote, and how did that all shake out?
Yeah, so it's elected kind of by convention, much like the regular state party functions. So if you're a member of the Young Republicans, which is 18 years old up to 40 years old, you join, you pay your yearly dues, and you can show up and register to come to the convention. And then those who are members and come to the convention and register to do so and show up are allowed to vote and select who their officers will be for the next 2-year term.
Okay. And so were there other people who were vying for the chairman? I mean, obviously you had to say, hey, I'm running for this, right? Is that correct? And were there other people that you
Sure.
had to beat out, or that you got more votes than they did?
Yeah, there was. There was one other guy running against me. There were some other contested races down the ballot as well. But, I think competition's good. And at the end of the day, we're all going to move forward together. And I look forward to working with all of them to build a better Young Republicans and Republican Party.
So the guy that was running against you, his name was Will Hansen. Is that correct? Do I have my information right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Were there any issues that kind of defined that campaign? And the reason I ask that is because I heard I have a source that just said, hey, there was some debate because, the Young Republicans are trying to get younger people into the party. And so I heard that there was maybe some debate or some push to change in the platform the current definition of marriage. Is there any truth to that?
There was a push 2 years ago, and they ended up tabling that motion 2 years ago until this convention. That wasn't the reason I ran for chairman. I ran for chairman of the Young Republicans because I think that the organization, the intent is to further the Republican cause, to win campaigns, to help expand, our membership by engaging young people through those campaigns and through our activities. So, that didn't define the race. Actually, I believe it was my opponent who who seconded the motion to strike that proposition from last convention, and I would have supported the same action. So I wouldn't say that defined the race. No, not at all.
Okay.
It wasn't even brought up on the floor.
All right. I'm just trying to make sure, because I certainly, this is not in other states and other places, there's some people that try to that do want to modify the platform in certain ways, and the idea is, hey, we'll get more people, we'll be able to appeal to a broader base and that sort of thing. So I was just curious if that was happening here, and I'm glad it's been tabled. We're talking with Jamie Barker, and a big congratulations to him. He's now the chairman of the Arkansas Federation of Young Republicans. He mentioned that he was on the program for the Conservative Future segment that we do. So Jamie, I'm curious, what are you doing now other than the chairman of the Arkansas Federation of Young Republicans?
Yeah, so when we talked last time, I was actually in a parking lot in Indiana working for Governor Huckabee's presidential campaign.
That's right.
Toward the end of that, when that was over, I actually became the political director.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
I welcome more evidence of corruption. We've got more evidence of corruption concerning Senator Jake Files. The story, it just gets really worse and worse for him ever since, I guess, about February is when the stories just started dripping out about Senator Jake Files. Really the credibility problem that he has as a Republican chair of the Senate Revenue and Taxation Committee. I have been calling for Senator Jake Files of Fort Smith to resign since April or May of this year because it's just obvious that there's a lot of smoke, and the saying is where there's smoke there's fire. We don't know specific. I think we have a much clearer picture now, though. It was on the front page of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. We've got people reporting on this. Twitter's been talking about. I mean, this is a huge deal. The fact that the FBI has raided Senator Jake Files' office, the fact that there is now a sworn affidavit that has been filed by that involves Deanna Gonzalez, and it just gets worse from there. This entire time, you wonder why Jake Files directed the city of Fort Smith to take the general improvement money and, at his request, wire it to Deanna Gonzalez for some subcontracting work, even though she's not a subcontractor and even though she's not an electrical conduit layer or worker or whatever. Now we find out she works for his company. Now we find out that, according to her in the affidavit, what she said was that Files told her to open up a bank account because the bank accounts that he has were all overdrawn, which if you know anything about the financial troubles of Senator Jake Files that have been in the news, that's not surprising. We then know that Deanna Gonzalez complied according to the affidavit. She opened the bank account the next day. Then Senator Jake Files urged the city of Fort Smith to wire her the money. Then she took most of the money out. $14,000 or so were in a cashier's check directed to, we'll get the exact figures, but $14,000 or so was a cashier's check made out to his company, FFH Construction, and then the remainder, almost the remainder of the $26,000 was taken out in cash, and both of them, the cash and the cashier's check, were given to Jake Files, where he paid employees out of it, he paid bonuses to Deanna Gonzalez, and then he took the rest with him. This is, if true, which I'm assuming if you're Deanna Gonzalez and the FBI is asking you, I'm assuming that this is pretty accurate stuff. What we have here is this is outrageous, ladies and gentlemen, that somebody would think that they are entitled to your money. And I never thought I'd say this, but from a money laundering standpoint, I don't think you can get much more sloppy than this. At least with John Woods and Mike and Neil, they had the decency to think that they couldn't just tell one of their employees to go open up a new bank account and then have them get, you know what I'm saying? At least John Woods and Mike and Neil attempted to launder the money through a college and a consulting firm. Good grief. I mean, how lazy can you get? By the way, welcome to the program. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here. One of the ways we do that is to tell you and bring you the news. This was the headline on the front page above the fold of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette today. States $25,931 went to Senator. Affidavit says. We do have. Do we have a digital copy of this affidavit? Let's go ahead and show our visual audience at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, and YouTube. Here we see United States District Court, case number 217. And this is the application for a search warrant is what this is, which they did execute. You can leave that out there, or you can go overhead to the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette story. This is just incredible if you think about this. I mean, the absolute the entitlement, the elitism. This is incredible. This is absolutely infuriating to me as a taxpayer. Yeah, this is the one. So we have Dave Hughes, who's on this story. August the 10th was the application for the search warrant. This is in relation to violation of, you see, their federal wire fraud charges, and that's what they're trying to get John Woods for. That's what Mike and Neil, I believe, has pled guilty to, or, there's a lot of charges in the Mike and Neil John Woods case. But money laundering is involved, wire fraud is involved, because you're dealing with, everything's digital nowadays. So if you're going to steal money, you're going to have to use, the banking system to do it. That's just common sense. This is the same story. Listen to what File's statement is. This is fascinating to me. There may not be anyone on the planet in more of a state of denial than Jake Files is right now. This is the same story, different day, that has been reported on before, Files said in an emailed response to a request seeking comment. I was contacted by law enforcement who are investigating this GIF grant, and from what I understand, others across the state that have nothing to do with me. They asked me related questions about the grant. They asked me about the bids, which I have discussed multiple times. I was fully cooperative, and I will continue to be, and that was the end of it. So some of you may be saying, well, why did they raid his office? What were they looking for? They were looking for, what I think is, it's very clear they were looking for templates of the bids that he falsified, that he allegedly falsified. If you don't know anything about this, in order for Fort Smith to get the General Improvement Fund money, they had to have multiple bids. One of those bids was submitted by Deanna Gonzalez, by Files. The other two bids were submitted by Jake Files. But the businesses, the subcontractors, have said they never authorized or submitted the bids. You have one guy on record saying that's not even what their bidding process looks like. That's not what their template looks like. And so the FBI seizes, I believe, phones, some computers, and one of the things that they're probably going to want to find is, does he have a template on there that is essentially a way to, falsify a bid? Because that's a big part of this, because that's what he had to do in order to in order to get, it's like a confidence man scheme. It's really what it is. But let's analyze this statement a little bit more, right? This is the same story, different day, that has been reported before. In reality, this is the same story, but a different senator. If we redid whiteboards every single day on this program, which we don't, we do a weekly theme. Eclipse of the Truth is what it is today, or this week. That's what the whiteboard would be. It would be that quote. This is actually the same story, different senator, not different day. Same story, different senator. If you look at the wire fraud charges. There's an updated statement, though. Go on over, let's see here. Go to Arkansas Matters. This is the NBC affiliate. This is so FBI conducted search warrant at State Senator Jake Files' office. If you scroll down there, it's the last paragraph. Quote, this is Jake File's statement. I was recently contacted by law enforcement officials who were investigating allegations of misuse of funds from a GIF grant. I was fully cooperative. I will continue to be, but I want to make it clear that I have not been charged with any crime and continue to deny the claims that have been alleged. I am confident that when all the facts are brought to light, I will be cleared of any appearance of wrongdoing. Wow. Folks, if you just go Google Jake File's name, you will find article after article after article from this year, whether it's the article we covered where yesterday he pled the Fifth Amendment in a deposition, and a civil case, in a civil suit, he pled the Fifth when they were trying to track down assets and where they were. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And so let me just say this. This is why it's pretty obvious to me you could make a pretty firm statement that he is disconnected from reality. Will you go back to that statement? I'm sorry, Joe. Go back to that statement. I will be cleared of any appearance of wrongdoing. Now, first of all, folks, come on.
That one doesn't have it on there. It's not the full article.
Appearance of wrongdoing. No, where's the article? Is it? Go back to the one that you were on. It is it's ArkansasMatters.com. That's the one that I'm looking for. Maybe we don't. Oh, I didn't give you ArkansasMatters.com? Okay, well, anyway. So, I am confident that when all the facts are brought to light, I will be cleared of any wrongdoing. He says any appearance of wrongdoing. Now, how is that possible in the age of the internet? First of all, he has got a better shot of being cleared, criminally than he does of ever being cleared of any appearance of wrongdoing, because this looks bad. I don't care who you are. This looks really bad. There you see the full statement. Any appearance of wrongdoing. That's just disconnected from reality, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, there's no other way to say that. I'm confident when all the facts are brought to light. Okay, so Jake Files, we're just going to say Jake Files is the most unlucky guy in the world then. He's either the most disconnected from reality or he's the most unlucky guy in the world, because for us to believe that he is perfectly fine, there's nothing to see here, we have to entertain the idea that two random subcontractors conspired together and lied about him falsifying bids. We also have to believe that an employee of his was in on it and somehow opened the bank account, which they have records of all of this, opened the bank account, takes the money out, that she was somehow doing all of this to ensnare Jake Files in some sort of wire fraud scheme. Because he says when all the facts come to light, he's going to be fine, cleared of any wrongdoing. I don't believe that for a second. I know many of you don't either. Now, let's analyze the Democrat Gazette statement. Go back to the Gazette article, Joe. I know we're ping-ponging around here, but look at this. This is another huge admission in his initial statement reported in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Quote, "This is the same story, different day, that has been reported on before. I was contacted by law enforcement who are investigating this GIF grant," and listen to this next part, "and from what I understand, others across the state that have nothing to do with me." Yet again, we have further evidence that there is a massive FBI investigation going on here in the state of Arkansas. It's already ensnared Mike and Neal. It's already ensnared John Woods. It's ensnared Ecclesia College. Also, we've got consulting groups and things like that. But keep in mind, flashback, go to conduitforaction.org. And no, not you, Joe, but go to conduitforaction.org, folks, and you will find that when David Ferguson, the former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research, was on this program, he was talking about the news that the Bureau of Legislative Research was now hiring outside counsel to deal with law enforcement requests to look at emails, information that the Bureau of Legislative Research has, which at the time meant either they were trying to get a timeline to complete their investigation and using emails to kind of pinpoint, different dates, or, this is what I believe, it was a signal that they were broadening their investigation into the Bureau of Legislative Research, which means they have, because the Bureau handles all Arkansas General Assembly email contact, official email contact. That's where it goes. They have their own server, It's their own deal, and that's we know a lot about servers over the last 2 years. But that's why the FBI was doing it, in my opinion, because it was broadening. Now we have Jake Files ensnared in this, and what is he saying? And from what I understand, others across the state that have nothing to do with me, there may be so many legislators out there with their hands in the cookie jar that, we may have massive resignations. And let me say this before we go to break, because this really needs to be reiterated. The Arkansas Republican Party, it's now time for you to ask for Jake Files' resignation. Governor Asa Hutchinson, it is now time for us, for you, to show that there is some shred of integrity in this organization to try to save. I mean, I know we don't care much about the Republican Party platform policy-wise, but it is now time, because anybody you talk to, there's a reason you have to check with the governor before you can run a piece of legislation if you're a Republican. He is essentially the unofficial head of the party. Governor Asa Hutchinson should be asking for Senator Jake Files' resignation right now. There should be a special election called. And the reason is because the district that Jake Files represents, I don't have it in front of me off the top of my head, the number, but the people of Fort Smith and that area deserve a senator who is above board for the upcoming fiscal session this next January. They should not have to wait until November 2018 before they get to have representation. That's not right. It's not fair. Senator Jake Files should resign. It is an absolute sore that he is the chair of the Senate Taxation and Revenue Committee. It is time for the Arkansas GOP to do the right thing. It's time for every Arkansas Republican official, if you're a state representative, if you're a state senator, you should congenially, as much as you can, for the good of the brand, call for Senator Jake Files to resign. There is no excuse for this. You read the trickle down ever since February, article after article after article. Governor Asa Hutchinson should ask him to resign. He should have done it. He should have done it by 10 a.m. this morning. It should have already been done. Senator Jake Files should have already resigned by 10 a.m. this morning. He's still in denial. Go read the FBI affidavit for yourself. Go read this publication. And all that being said, somebody tell me, where in the world is the Arkansas Democrat Party? Why is the Arkansas Democratic Party calling for his resignation as well? And the fact that they haven't, that should tell you something about how the Democrats in this state, they care about the Democrat policies that people like Jake Files support, because that's the real truth. We got Republicans and Democrats, and you can't tell the difference between the two. You have true conservatives in the Republican Party, but the ones in the leadership are in agreement in the direction that this state should go. If you look at anything besides Confederate statues and the earned income tax credit, that's about it. We got to take a break. Back in a minute.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way,
Those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
It's a PHP parody.
Hey, man, you got any of that marble rock?
Yeah, I've got the hookup.
Thanks. I need a fix real bad. I'm itching to grow some government.
How much you need?
I'm gonna need a taxpayer's dime bag.
No problem, sir. 1 taxpayer dime of marble rock. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. They don't call it Little Rock for nothing. Am I right?
Did you know your state representative or state senator may be addicted to growing government? The drug is called marble rock, and too much of it will cause marble fever. Watch for the warning signs. Does your legislator suddenly display a lack of humility when faced with basic questions? Does he or she suddenly develop hubris and pride that was not present during the campaign for office? These are signs they might be smoking the terrible drug, marble rock. The solution? Detox. Vote for detox. Vote to send them home for their own good. Warning! Some politicians once voted out of office will not go home and stay in Little Rock to get their fix by lobbying, also known as the Burris Syndrome.
PHP parody. Broadcasting across Arkansas and holding politicians accountable for what they say and do. The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back on Twitter. So I was in my my rant there about the Arkansas Democrat Party. Well, mainly it was the GOP, but I was asking just a second ago, where's the Arkansas Democrat Party? Why are they not asking for Senator Jake Files to resign? Somebody just tweeted me the handle at ARPXDems. They just tweeted me a letter from the Arkansas Democrat Party. Hang on one second, though. Let me see. Okay, Dems, do they have any tweets out? Because I need to see what their tweets are. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything since a day. It's been like a day, but I've got a letter here. We'll have to verify this, but, I mean, it's on Twitter. I mean, we've retweeted it. My only hesitancy is that there's not a date on this, but I'm going to read this anyway. The Democrat Party of Arkansas calls for the immediate resignation of Senator Jake Files, Fort Smith, today. From the Democrat Party of Arkansas, it is time for the Republican Party of Arkansas to stop playing this disingenuous game with the voters of Arkansas. Behind the scenes, they have intentionally tried to sweep this scandal under the rug by seeking promises from Senator Files that he won't seek re-election and have been scrambling to find a candidate to replace him in 2018. That dog won't hunt, they write. Any elected official willing to engage in this level of corruption and fraud should not be allowed to remain in office one day longer. It is not enough to simply say you may or may not seek re-election. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this elected official committed wire fraud. His malfeasance cost to the taxpayers of Fort Smith over $1 million, and the Arkansas Democrat Gazette reported today that he pocketed over $25,000 in taxpayer general improvement funds. The Republican Party of Arkansas may be willing to accept this behavior, but the people of Arkansas should not and will not accept it. See, that's the partisan statement that I've been waiting for. At least the Arkansas Democrat Party is pretending there's a difference between the two. They have now called for Jake Files' resignation. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
For the Republican Party of Arkansas, and I worked there until I received a job offer from the governor to go work for him during the legislative session. And then since then, I've moved out, and I'm working for his campaign on his political staff.
Okay. All right. So you're on his political staff, I guess, for his re-election then.
Yes, yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
All right. Well, obviously, I definitely know. I mean, things have been going good. Let me ask you this about the primary situation when it came to working for Governor Huckabee. First of all, pretty incredible that Sarah Huckabee Sanders is where she is now in the Trump administration. But was that not the craziest presidential election? I think there'll never be one in my lifetime like that. But, the way it all shook out, it just was totally unpredictable from my point of view. I got used to the fact that I'm terrible at predicting this stuff nationally.
Sure. Yeah, so I've actually got a good story on that. We were in Iowa the night before the Iowa caucuses, and I'm sitting in a room with Sarah Huckabee Sanders and her husband Brian, both phenomenal people, and there's about 6 other people working on the campaign. It's midnight, we're all standing up talking about, kind of what we expect to happen the next day, and someone says, hey, if Governor Huckabee, if our guy doesn't come out on top tomorrow and we're out of this thing before the end of the primary season, who's y'all's next choice? And so I think we could kind of all see that it wasn't going to go the way we were hoping, although we were optimistic. And Sarah and Brian immediately said, we're with Donald Trump. And so we all kind of chuckled, and we went around the circle, and everybody gave a different answer. There were Kasich people. I supported Rubio after Huckabee dropped out. There were some Carson people. And so it's just really interesting to see, 7 people united working for the same person have 7 different views almost about who to support next. And so, yeah, it was absolutely nuts.
Wow. Yeah. So, it was kind of just a microcosm. I think that's a reflection of a lot of people who were supporting candidates, during that time. What do you think is going on so far? How do you think Donald Trump's doing so far?
So somebody asked me that the other day, and my answer is always the same. So I told people before the election that no matter what happens, if at the end of 4 years I was alive and we had a conservative on the Supreme Court, that I would be very pleased with my vote. And so far I'm still alive, and so far we've got Justice Gorsuch who's doing a good job, and I think it's going great. I think the jobs numbers alone kind of justify, everything he said during the campaign. He's obviously had some issues navigating some of the, political waters of Congress, but I think any of us would have those issues when, dealing with people so entrenched in the bureaucracy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with what you said there. Since I do focus on state issues on the program a lot, I've certainly been really excited about the Supreme Court prospect, maybe the idea of getting another person on there as well. But as far as, draining the swamp is extremely hard. You can just look at the folks who are in, what's now being called the deep state and everything else. It's really an uphill battle. They don't want to lose power, give it back to the states. And so, it's a lot easier, I say that, knock on wood, to change the minds and hearts of 3 million Arkansans than maybe it is to, change 300 million Americans' minds and that
Absolutely.
Sort of thing.
I think there is, though. I think there is a silver lining to it all. You've got Secretary Zinke at the Interior, who I think is doing a very good job there. It's kind of a nondescript part of the government. We don't hear a lot about it, but what is coming out of there seems to be very positive, very.
Fighting dependency on government so Arkansas can be the land of opportunity once again. Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, welcome back. Hey, we're going to pick back up with some of this Jake Files stuff. It is a developing story. And again, the Arkansas Democrat Party, at least on Twitter, I've got a letter in front of me where it appears that they're calling for the resignation of Senator Jake Files. So we're going to follow this. We're going to talk more about it today for sure, because we haven't really covered the search warrant yet as much as I want to. So yesterday on the program, we were talking just a little bit about the rally that took place in Hot Springs. And I had a commenter on our Facebook Live page, Billy Sessions, who was a part of it, and who actually does travel the country and goes to these type of events. And so I reached out to him, and I want to just welcome to the program, Mr. Billy Sessions to the program. Billy, thanks for coming on, sir.
You bet.
So just tell me, Billy, a little bit about, I want to get my head wrapped around, first of all, what it is, the rally on Hot Springs, what you were trying to accomplish, what your group, what their intentions are.
Well, it's more or less to support the monument. It's called Confederate Square. It's been going on for a couple of years. James Dale Brock was one that puts it on. We've seen the Confederate monuments be under attack for quite some time, along with the Confederate flag. So we've been doing this to support the monument kind of as a prior thing, because we know they're trying to take them down everywhere.
And so this was the third year that this has been a rally that took place on Hot Springs, down in Hot Springs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it was for the most part, and I want to talk about Charlottesville here in a little bit, but I just want people to know what exactly went on in Hot Springs this weekend. I mean, I know it was mostly peaceful, but I also know that the Antifa people were there. The Antifa people were there, and I mean, how many of the counter-protesters, and were they dressed up like ninjas the way they are in the mainstream press?
Oh, yeah. Well, we were coming back from Memphis. We'd been to Lexington, Kentucky at the monument there, swung by Memphis. We was on our way back to Hot Springs, and all this blowed up. You know, we have the event every month. So, I mean, we wasn't thinking nothing about it. We were on our way back to Hot Springs, and, I mean, Facebook went crazy. The rumor was put out that it was a KKK rally. Well, we had to come on and basically debunk that, because we're not white supremacists. We have no affiliation with any white supremacist group. So we had people, see Hot Springs, concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after Charlottesville, everybody's concerned about that type of thing, and we just had to clarify. And we gathered up with law enforcement and briefed them on what we were planning on doing, and they prepared for it. And we told them what kind of opposition we thought we would be facing.
Yeah. And
we were pretty accurate on that number. And there was 75 of us, roughly 65, 75, been throughout the day. And there were around 350, 400 of the left. You had Antifa, Redneck Revolt, BLM, and Black Panthers.
Wow.
And yes, they were dressed up like ninjas.
Okay, so they were in the all black and the having their faces covered. I saw there in some reports it did make that there was one point where the Antifa people charged at you guys. Describe what was going through your head when that happened.
Well, Paul, not a whole lot was going through my head. I've been to 11 of these things. And we were marching down the sidewalk. We were marching toward the monument. She was going to lay flowers on the monument, okay, of all the fallen Confederate soldiers. And we were walking on the other side of the highway from where they were having their event. See, they had a permitted event down the road from us as a counter-protest.
Okay.
And there were about 350 of them there gathered, and when they seen us marching down the other side of the road, and it wasn't all of us, it was probably about 30 of us, going to the monument, they all rushed to the sidewalk, gathered about 50 of them, and they charged across the road with their fists reared back, hollering obscenities, and, I mean, they were coming on a full-blown attack toward us. And one officer from Hot Springs PD, I said, they're attacking, get ready. And he come running and throwed himself in front of that angry mob that was pouring toward us, and how he stopped them, I don't know.
Wow. They
were actually swinging their fists out around him, trying to hit us. It's on video, Channel 11. As we had about 2 foot in between the sidewalk and the wall of the building squeezed through. And they did take some of them to jail.
So this was, about 3 of them to jail, right? Is that what I read in the reports?
I think there was a total of 4 of them went to jail. They took a native Hot Springs guy to jail for a federal felony for burning a Confederate flag on top of the hedge bushes on federal property.
So where do these Antifa people come from? We have an Arkansas audience. I just want them to know what can happen. I mean, they were bussing these people in. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, you've got leftist organizations that raises money. They will put out Craigslist ad offering anywhere from $15 to $30 an hour. I've seen pay these people to get on a bus, come up to your hometown, and tear things up.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. I mean, it's obviously it's happening all across the country, but this is just how charged things were. I mean, you think most of these people were coming from Little Rock, or where were they coming from?
Well, I know from the people who was arrested was from Hot Springs and Little Rock, but they all didn't come from Hot Springs and Little Rock. They probably come from Shreveport. I heard rumors that some of them was coming up from Baton Rouge, Black Panthers, and BLM from New Orleans.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm glad that everything was okay in terms of, I mean, the officer doing what he did, and that it wasn't, a spectacle the way it was in Charlottesville. Now, I want to talk about, the way the media mischaracterized this. I mean, they were calling this Hot Springs rally this weekend a Confederate rally, which, of course, that goes out to the AP, and you have people in Shreveport and Little Rock that are going to read that, and, it gets characterized as a Confederate rally. You guys are just there saying, hey, look, we first of all, you're there exercising your First Amendment right to peaceably assemble. You have the permit, but you guys are just there saying, hey, this is our history, this is heritage, like, look, we shouldn't mess with the statue, this is ridiculous, don't try to sanitize history. And yet, they want to lump what you guys are doing in with the racists and the neo-Nazis, what happened in Charlottesville. So comment on that and talk about, because I know that you and your group, you were actually in Charlottesville, correct? Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, first, there were some internet blogger. He basically chases wrecks. His news outlet's 911 something. Okay, I don't really know the name of it. He put out everywhere, contacted every media outlet and said there was a Ku Klux Klan rally, which actually false. He knows it was not a Ku Klux Klan rally. He knows we're not white supremacists. So that's where it blowed up right there. And yes, once it got out in the media, that's what happened. That's what brought all the factions. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what brought all the factions to Hot Springs, and they said they were going to turn it, Hot Springs, into another Charlottesville.
Unbelievable. I'm really glad that it didn't. So you put out a video to correct what the media was mischaracterizing with Hot Springs, and you said, yes, we were at Charlottesville, but we never went in Lee Park when the white supremacist KKK neo-Nazis were there, because you guys disagree with that kind of discrimination, right? I mean, you guys are not racists.
That's right. We never entered Lee Park. We never was a part of the white nationalist or the white supremacist speaking event in Lee Park. We stayed in the street. We was there in Charlottesville. We seen a lot of bad things go on. Matter of fact, we got caught up in the middle of it, and we got several guys injured, out of our group. No, we wasn't playing along with the white supremacists.
So I want to hear what happened next, but first I want to say this. So Donald Trump, he took a ton of criticism in his second press conference when he said not everybody in Charlottesville was a neo-Nazi white supremacist KKK member, and you are essentially confirming that. And the media, of course, they wanted to say everybody in Charlottesville was KKK. I mean, was white supremacist. This kind of really, it inflates the number of people that they can then say, well, look, our country, 50% of people are racist and 50% of the people aren't. And, they want us to think that this thing is a powder keg about to explode, because in most of Americans are just enjoying their freedom, trying to work, trying to put food on the table, and living their life. And so, that's the narrative that they're trying to put out there. So tell us, though, because there's some reports, even from Black Lives Matter, The Daily Caller had a quote from somebody from the Black Lives Matter movement saying the police at Charlottesville abandoned the situation. Some people say that the people in Lee Park, which I know you weren't in, were funneled towards the Black Lives Matter people. What can you tell us? What went on the ground?
Well, Paul, I'll tell you what we witnessed when we was there. We showed up on the east side of Lee Park out in the street. Okay, there were an angry mob of 700 to 1,000 right there at the south side of Lee Park, and that is where the entrance was to where the Unite the Right event was taking place. Lee Park sits up on top of a little knoll, a set of steps going up to it, okay? We were there at the bottom in the street. We was watching this take place. We had riot police come in from behind us. Okay, they were some tear gas chunking back and forth in the crowd of that 1,000 angry mob. We did not want to go through that angry mob. We were forced through that angry mob by police. Well, we got 3 people injured. We got 2 guys with skull fractures. 1 guy with some broke ribs. And some other minor injuries to other people, you know. All right, we got on the other side, over on the west side of Lee Park. After we went through that angry mob, I gathered everybody up. The leader of the 1st Tennessee Rifles gathered his guys up, which was with us. And we seen the riot police up in Lee Park. Instead of pushing the white supremacists out the north side where the angry mob wasn't gathered, they pushed them out the south side with riot shields and stuff, right into that angry mob of about 1,000 Antifa and BLM. And that's when, I mean, it was just a riot. I mean, these guys were coming out. They were barricaded. They didn't have no choice but to come out there. And they were coming right down in this. One black guy had a aerosol can with a cigarette lighter, using it as a flamethrower. The people coming down the steps, they were spraying pepper spray, throwing bricks, throwing rocks, had clubs, and they were just beating everybody that the cops was pushing out of Lee Park. So, yes, the police caused the violence by their actions and how they initiated pushing people out. And they were cops right behind where I was standing. Matter of fact, I was standing right there with the InfoWars reporter. And these cops was behind the barricade sitting there watching all that take place. Had a street barricaded off. Just sitting there watching it all take place. White nationalists was coming out with gashes in their heads, blood all over them.
So,
I mean,
do you think?
Yeah.
You think you think the president of the United States saw those images, and that's
well,
why?
I know he did.
Yeah, I mean that's why he came out and said. First of all, he made a kind of a general statement because he didn't have all the facts, and then I guess my point is you were there on the ground, and gosh, Billy, you are describing what to me is a pretty terrifying situation.
It was bad.
I would never want to be in that position or that situation. But, I guess I'm just saying the media, and our listeners can decide for themselves, but the media is so misrepresenting not just this event, but tons of events, but event like this. And now we have, and this is what contributed to those people showing up in Arkansas, charging at you guys and trying to recreate what happened in Charlottesville. And I'm just thankful that our law enforcement in Arkansas, Hot Springs, and I know you guys work with, the national park individuals as well. They were determined to not let something like that happen again.
Oh, yeah. When we talked to Hot Springs PD, talked to police chief, Arkansas State Police, the Garvin County Sheriff's Office, and the Parks Police, the police chief of Hot Springs got up on the desk and said, "This is not going to be another Charlottesville. This is not happening here." And he guaranteed me it was not going to happen. That they would protect us, and they did.
So, last question, and we've been talking with Billy Sessions. I appreciate it. What do you think when it comes to them trying to remove the statues? Do you let's say let's say that all the statues were removed. Do you think the left would be satisfied? Do you think they would all go home?
No, that's just a stepping stone to other things that they want. They're not going to stop with Confederate monuments. They're wanting the road signs. They're even wanting to take down the Founding Fathers' names on certain streets. They're already starting that. That's just the beginning.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think appeasement in this situation is, I mean, if they are upset with the very foundation of the country, America, as a nation, period, then this is just a step, because the same arguments they make about being triggered or feeling oppressed because of a Confederate general statue, those same arguments can be made for George Washington, a street sign in a bad neighborhood or something like that. I mean, that's a symbol of oppression because of the name of the street. It's just the beginning, and that's why, look, I appreciate you exercising your First Amendment right. I appreciate you being peaceful. I also appreciate that you were willing to come out and say, look, we're not a white supremacist group. The media is misrepresenting this, and that's why I wanted to have you on today, Billy. And certainly,
can I add something?
Yes, sir.
Well, to validate President Trump, when he talked about the night before, okay, the left media spun it, that he was referring to the Tiki Torch March. It's saying that they were good people there the night before at Lee Park. We were there the night before Lee Park. We had people, we were carrying on intelligent debates with people of the community there at Lee Park the night before. We was live streaming. He's seen those live streams. There were other groups there that was not white supremacists that did not take part in Tiki Torch March.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, so the left's spending that even more, saying the night before there were good people there, referring to, people who are not white supremacists like you guys versus some other people who were there. And that's what the left can't seem to get their, the media just refuses to report that kind of stuff. Very frustrating, but hey, there are programs like this, Billy, and I know mediums like what you guys do on Facebook and everything else, trying to just get the truth out there, let people make up their own minds, and that's what I want to do.
Well, that's what we try to do, Paul. I work with Patriot Media to give the truth to the people at these events, because you can't depend on the mainstream news to give you the truth. They will spin it. They clip their film. They put what they want to in it. That's the reason I live stream. And also, Paul, before I go, there were about 6 buses in Charlottesville. When we were making our way back to the parking garage, we encountered 6 buses, 4 tour buses, or something like a tour bus, and a couple other smaller buses, and they were drivers standing outside them buses with BLM shirts on.
So that was in Charlottesville.
That's correct.
And so we also had buses in Hot Springs.
As far as I know, yeah, there was some showed up.
Yeah, well, certainly glad they had 2 different results. We had 2 different results, but again, Billy, I appreciate you coming on, sir. It's a great contact to me to make. I'm glad that we were able to meet. If you ever need anything, just let me know, okay?
Okay, thank you, Paul, for having me on.
All righty, yes, sir, folks. We got to go to break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. We do have it now. It is official. Arkansas Democrat Party, we did break the news, has called for the resignation of Senator Jake Files of Fort Smith. We'll have more on that back in a moment.
The Paul Harrell program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Okay, fine, whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Much confirmation, confirming a lot of things here. We'll have more on Jack Files in a minute, but I mean, I just want to say that interview from somebody who was actually there. I mean, in my mind, yeah, we know that what the mainstream media is. We know what they do. We know how they lie to us. They misreport. How you can't trust them. But good grief! I mean, that of course that's a story that would. It's a story that is just not. It's not worth their time to get the story right. They're not going to get the ratings they want. They're not going to get the agenda that they want promoted. And you know what I'm saying? Like and yet there was President Trump, and I know he's got this big rally in Phoenix tonight. And look, I'm not a fan of I'm not a fan of going back into Afghanistan. I'll tell you that much right now. While we're on the Trump subject, wrapping up this hour, I'm not a fan of it. I mean, we've been at this war for what, 16, 17 years? It's really frustrating. And what are we fighting for? I mean, hearing all these people saying, yeah, we're going to send more troops in. And I think, the average American, the average American does not go throughout their day thinking that if we don't send 4,000 troops, that we're going to be less safe. The average American, there's like no direct correlation, you know what I mean? Between the huge, daunting responsibility of sending our own countrymen into harm's way versus not. Like there's such a disconnect, a sea between direct consequences here, and the only I guess the positivity that I have from Trump's speech last night would be when he said that we're going to put more troops in Afghanistan, but we're no longer going to nation build. We're going to put more troops in there, but we're going to actually fight to win the war. From my standpoint, if we're going to fight to win the war, I mean, what we should be home in 6 months. You know what I'm saying? It's the United States military. But I just kind of worried. I don't know. I certainly don't. I'm not a fan of that idea. Maybe you disagree with me. Feel free, 870-275-9799. Call, text, 870-275-9799. We have one more hour of the Paul Harrell Program coming your way next. Don't go anywhere.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Doesn't come out on top tomorrow, and we're out of this thing before the end of the primary season. Who's y'all's next choice? And so I think we could kind of all see that it wasn't going to go the way we were hoping, although we were optimistic. And Sarah and Brian immediately said, we're with Donald Trump. And so we all kind of chuckled, and we went around the circle, and everybody gave a different answer. I mean, there were Casey people. I supported Rubio after Huckabee dropped out. There were some Carson people, and so it's just really interesting to see, 7 people united working for the same person have 7 different views almost about who to support next. And so, yeah, it was absolutely nuts.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of just a microcosm. I think that's a reflection of a lot of people who were supporting candidates, during that time. What do you think what do you think is going on so far? I mean, how do you think Donald Trump's doing so far?
So somebody asked me that the other day, and my answer is always the same. So I told people before the election that no matter what happened, if at the end of 4 years I was alive and we had a conservative on the Supreme Court, that I would be very pleased with my vote. And so so far I'm still alive, and so far we've got Justice Gorsuch who's doing a good job, and I think it's going great. I think the jobs numbers alone kind of justify, everything he said during the campaign. He's obviously had some issues navigating some of the, political waters of Congress, but I think any of us would have those issues when, dealing with people so entrenched in the bureaucracy.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with what you said there. Since I do focus on state issues on the program a lot, I've certainly been really excited about the Supreme Court prospect, maybe the idea of getting another person on there as well. But as far as, draining the swamp is extremely hard. I mean, you can just look at the folks who are in, what's now being called the deep state and everything else. It's really an uphill battle. They don't want to lose power, give it back to the states. And so, it's a lot easier, I say that, knock on wood, to change the minds and hearts of 3 million Arkansans than maybe it is to, change 300 million Americans' minds and that
Absolutely.
sort of thing.
I think there is a silver lining to it all. I mean, you've got Secretary Zinke at the Interior, who I think is doing a very good job there. It's kind of a nondescript part of the government. We don't hear a lot about it, but what is coming out of there seems to be very positive, very conservative, shrinking government. And the same thing with Scott Pruitt at the EPA. He seems to be doing a very good job. Everyone seems to have very high esteem for the job he's doing. And there was a lot of protests. He's actually the most protested member of the United States government, past the president and vice president. But I think he's doing a good job there. And so I think, as we go along, hopefully for, potentially 8 years, we will see more positives like that as we continue down the road.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, because I want to back up a little bit. You're working for Governor Asa Hutchinson's reelection campaign. Obviously, I know you've listened to the program before. I am not his biggest fan or supporter right now, based on the agenda and the policies that I want to see get accomplished. Things are not moving as fast as I want them to, and in some cases, Jamie, I feel like we're going in the opposite direction with tax increases and things like that. And I know this was not an interview to talk about your work on the campaign, but what are your thoughts? Let me just ask you this about the Democrats putting up a candidate. You also have Libertarian Mark West, who's going to make a run at it. Just what are your whole thoughts on this working for the reelection campaign of the governor?
Sure. So I will say I'm a huge fan of our governor. I think he's done a very good job. I mean, obviously, you're free to disagree, and I'm sure we're disagreeing in segments. You're going to agree with some of the stuff he does, and as am I, and you're going to disagree in spots. But overall, I think he's done a very good job. He's definitely been better than the alternative we could have had for sure. But beyond just that justification, I think he's actually doing, above and beyond what people could have expected. His approval numbers are extremely high, and I think that's reflected in the fact that the Democrats are still yet to even field a candidate. Obviously, they're going to have to put somebody up to maintain their party status.
Right.
But I think that this, for the same reasons that the state continues to move more red and more red, the governor who's governing with a good conservative agenda. Now, again, obviously everyone's not going to agree with the level of conservatism to it, and that's fine and that's fair. But I think, when the
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome back. This is hour number 2. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. We do have some breaking news a little bit from last hour, but I do now have this confirmed. Sources indicate from an Arkansas Democratic Party official that they are now officially calling for the resignation of Senator Jake Files from Fort Smith. And the letter that is attached with this, the statement, and I don't know if this is anywhere else. I don't know if this was leaked. I mean, I know it was tweeted out by what appears to be an Arkansas Democrat, but I wanted to get this confirmed. I do have this now confirmed. Again, a source within the Arkansas Democrat Party. They are calling for the resignation of Jake Files, saying, quote, "It is time for the Republican Party of Arkansas to stop playing this disingenuous game with the voters of Arkansas. Behind the scenes, they have intentionally tried to sweep this scandal under the rug by seeking promises from Senator Files that he won't seek re-election and have been scrambling to find a candidate to replace him in 2018. Isn't it Matt Pitts, Representative Pitts, that wants to run for that seat? If there's a special election called, I don't think he can run because you can't, if you're already an elected office official, you won't be able to run. Because then that creates like a cascade of special elections if they do that. That dog won't hunt, Arkansas Democrat Party, trying to appeal to Arkansans with, I don't know. That dog won't hunt, though. Any elected official willing to engage in this level of corruption and fraud should not be allowed to remain in office one day longer, they write. It is not enough to simply say you may or may not seek re-election. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this elected official committed wire fraud. His malfeasance cost the taxpayers of Fort Smith over $1 million, and the Arkansas Democrat Gazette reported today that he pocketed over $25,000 in taxpayer general improvement funds. The Republican Party of Arkansas may be willing to accept this behavior, but the people of Arkansas should not and will not accept it. Governor Asa Hutchinson, Arkansas Republican Party, it's now time for you to demand the resignation of Senator Jake Files. It is now time for you to call a special election for the people of Fort Smith to ensure that there's a senator representing them in the upcoming fiscal session in January or this spring, so they'll have adequate representation. They won't be left without their senator, because Jake Files has no business in Little Rock. He has no business voting on behalf of the people at this point. He needs to resign. If there's a shred of integrity left in the Arkansas leadership, in the Arkansas GOP leadership, a shred of integrity, it is now time. And I think there is. I think there's more than a shred of integrity left. Don't misunderstand me. But even if there was a shred, you guys should still call for the resignation of Jake Files, because it's getting ridiculous. You should have called for it 3 or 4 months ago.
I'm surprised the Democrats haven't done this already. This is it's been months in the making.
You're exactly right. The Democrat Party has held off. I don't know how long. I don't. It may be because they didn't have a communications person for a long time. That may be what it was. I had Democrat Scott Baltz on this program, and I asked him if he thinks he didn't really answer. He didn't really give one way or the other. But now I'm not just calling on Asa Hutchinson. Every elected Republican official in this state should be calling on the resignation of Jake Files. State representative, state senator, your colleague, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, your colleague is made a mockery of the system. You know, there's a reason Micah Neal resigned. There's a reason that, I'm sorry, he didn't resign because he was just a former state representative. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. You're not fit for office at this point. We now know more about Deanna Gonzalez. Deanna Gonzalez gave in an affidavit. She talked to the FBI. She actually does exist, Joe, unless the FBI is in on your wild conspiracy theory that she doesn't really exist. I'm sure Jake Files would love to believe that it's really a massive conspiracy of 2 subcontractor small business owners, one of his employees, and the entire Federal Bureau of Investigation teaming up against him to frame him for this wire fraud charge. I'm sure he would love to believe that. He is still denying that he's done anything wrong, by the way. He pled the 5th. And we found out yesterday he pled the 5th Amendment in a civil case about trying to figure out where assets are and stuff. And his company, because they got a bank that's suing him and other banks and stuff, trying to get their money back, trying to find these assets, recoup as much of the loss as they can. Folks, it's a mess, but it's none is worse than the fact that the FBI raided and executed a search warrant on Jake Files. Do we have that article? Can we go to that article, please? This is 4029 TV. 4029 News, FBI conducted search at State Senator Jake Files' office. Adam Roberts reports on this. And let me see here. What were they after? They were after computers, iPads, and iPhones. And if you go read in the actual affidavit. Forget that article. Go to the affidavit. You still have the affidavit up, Joe? Okay. Go to the actual affidavit because this is what you need to see. United States District Court for the Western District of Arkansas, and this is the application for search warrant, okay? It says here, I, a federal law enforcement officer or an attorney for the government, request a search warrant and state under penalty of perjury that I have reason to believe that on the following person or property, and they put the address there in Fort Smith, and you keep going down. The basis for the search, look what's checked there. You see that? You see that in black? Evidence of a crime is checked. That's the basis of the search, evidence of a crime. And then the third one down, marked as well, property designed for use, intended for use, or used in committing a crime. They are saying that the iPhones, the iPads, or the computers that they seized from Jake Files' office, the FBI believes that they were used in committing a crime. We speculated last hour that may have something to do with the fact that he allegedly falsified bids to get the money to commit the wire fraud in other subcontractors' names without them knowing about it. Presumably, the FBI might be able to find a template of that on his computer, and that would certainly be evidence. Number 3 there, read that. The application of the search and seizure warrant seeks authority to search and seize items set forth in attachment B. Gives the address. Keep going down. See page 3. Now, this is the FBI agent here. The FBI agent in charge of this out of the Little Rock office, his name is Timmy Akins. Timmy K. Akins, being duly sworn, depose and state as follows. I have been employed as a special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation for more than 21 years. I am currently assigned to the Little Rock Division. My responsibilities as a special agent with the FBI include investigating violations of Title 18 under United States Code, Section 1341, mail fraud, Title 18 United States Code, Section 1343, wire fraud, which is what they're going to get Jake Files on, and Title 18 United States Code, Section 1957, money laundering. I'm going to say this for the second hour in a row. At least John Woods and Mike and Neal had the decency to try to actually launder this money. Well, I'm just saying, a college, a church, a college, a consulting group, and they at least tried to make it hard to find. You have to follow the dots a little bit to figure out how Mike and Neal got his $38,000 in taxpayer money kickbacks. This guy just had one of his employees, Deanna Gonzalez, go open up an account. He had the money from the city of Fort Smith transferred to her. Then she took all the money out and gave it to him. I mean, that's not a complex scheme. That's not, That's just too casual. If you're going to steal from the taxpayers, don't do it casually. Come on. What'd you say, Joe? Joe says his grandmother could come up with a better scheme than that. Is your grandmother a listener of the show? She may take offense to that. That would mean that you have low expectations for your grandmother to be a criminal.
No, I have higher expectations that she could do better than that.
You have high expectations that she could do better than... Okay. Hey, look, let me just say this. I take no pleasure in seeing, whether it's Mike and Neil, John Woods. I mean, yeah, I disagree with Jake Files' policy. I think he was, I think he's trying to grow government. I disagree with all that. But I have no pleasure in seeing this guy go down for this. At the same time, though, gosh, folks, that's our money. What kind of people are we attracting to this job when they think they can just take your money and spend it and enrich themselves? I mean, we have every right to be as outraged as you want to be on this. And it's just so, it's sad is what it is. It is absolutely sad. And it demonstrates you're never going to stop corruption like Jake Files. That's why government must be small and limited in what it can do to us, because you're never going to stop people from trying to go down there and make money for themselves.
But their mentality is not, like when they get the money in from the taxpayers, it's no longer their money, it's our money. As in, like, it's the government's money. We can spend it and do what we want with it.
Yeah,
that's their mentality.
Again, it's just so casual in how this was done. I mean, at one point, was there any time when Jake Files took that money from Deanna Gonzalez, according to Deanna Gonzalez in this FBI affidavit? Think there was any moment where he was like, I could go to jail for this? Maybe there was. Maybe there was that moment of, or maybe, I'm going to go to, maybe he knew, I'm going to go to jail for this one. But you get in such dire financial straits, and that's what he was. I mean, Deanna Gonzalez said the reason she had to open up the account for the money was because all of his accounts were overdrawn, according to him. Let me get to the point where it mentions Deanna Gonzalez in this FBI document. Joe, I think you need to find it too. It is on page 12. This is where it gets interesting. On December 29th, Files emailed 3 materially false and fraudulent bids to Western Arkansas Planning and Development District. Now, this is in the FBI affidavit. Let's think about this for a second. Senator Files still is saying publicly that he's going to be cleared of these charges. That he hasn't been charged and he's going to be cleared. That's what he's saying right now publicly. Is anybody out there? Look, we'll take your texts and your phone calls specifically from people in Jake Files District. I mean, I know we're on in Jake Files District. Okay, we're on the Marshall. KFPW, we're on right now. That's 1230 AM or 96.7 FM out of Fort Smith. And so I know that's his stomping grounds. I'd love to know what you guys think about all this. 870-275-9799. We're going to continue with this. 870-275-9799. Files emailed, according to this document, 3 materially false and fraudulent bids to Western Arkansas Planning and Development District that represented bids from Lego Construction, Williams Power and Light, and Deanna Gonzalez to lay water, sewer, and electrical lines at the River Valley Sports Complex. Now, this already seemed fishy because Deanna Gonzalez works for his own company and isn't a contractor and doesn't know how to lay water, sewer, and electrical lines, and yet she was chosen to receive the taxpayer-funded money. Let's see, number 24. We keep scrolling down here. Now, Gefkin's affiliated with the city of Fort Smith. Gefkin stated in his interview on July 27th that at the time Files submitted the 3 bids to the Western Planning District Development District, the city of Fort Smith was not aware that Gonzalez worked for Files and his company, FFH Construction. Subsequent investigation has revealed that the 3 bids filed email to the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District to support the GIF application for $46,500 were fictitious. Again, I don't know why the FBI hasn't charged this guy yet. Maybe Jake Files is talking, which would be a very bad thing for, I don't know, maybe some of the other legislators he referenced in his statement with the Gazette that are being investigated by the FBI as well. Jason Williams was interviewed on July 20th. Williams, the owner of Williams Power and Lighting, was shown a quote or bid that appeared to have been prepared by his company. Williams Power and Lighting Incorporated, their bid for the Chaffee Crossing infrastructure work, I hope I'm pronouncing Chaffee correctly, described the work to be done as water and sewer lines and electrical conduit. The Williams Power and Lighting, Inc. bid was emailed by files to the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District. Williams stated he did not prepare the bid for the crossing infrastructure work, nor did he ever give files or anyone else permission to prepare a bid using his company's name. Let me say that again. Nor did he ever give files or anyone else permission to prepare a bid using the company's name. Williams explained that the bid was not in the format that he uses. He further explained that his company does not install any kind of water or sewer lines. Further, Williams stated that the bid reflects that materials are quoted by project by J&B. That's a quote. Williams said that he has never done business with J&B. Williams stated after Williams learned from authorities that Files had submitted a bid on behalf of Williams Power and Lighting, Williams called Files to ask Files why Files used Williams' company's name without Williams' permission. Williams said Files never returned the call. Now that would completely contradict what Files said when this story initially broke about the false contractor bids. Files claimed he had emails and phone records to back up that what he was saying was true and that he had their permission to submit the bids. Again, this affidavit, FBI search warrant affidavit, directly contradicts that. And then they go and they interview on July 18th, FBI, Osvaldo Ambriz. Osvaldo Ambriz was interviewed. Ambriz is the owner of a construction, let me see here, of Lego Construction in Greenwood, Arkansas. Ambriz told the FBI that he did not prepare the bid created in the name of Lego Construction for laying electrical, sewer, and water lines at the River Valley Sports Complex. During the interview of Ambriz, he was shown a bid ostensibly from Lego Construction, and Files had emailed to the Western Planning and Development District to obtain the $46,500. Ambriz told the FBI that he did not give Files permission to submit an invoice or bid on his or his company's behalf. Ambriz explained that he does not understand how to lay water lines. Ambriz stated all he does is work with wood and only does framing. Jake Files was submitting bids for water lines in companies' names that don't even do water work. Joe, I do think your grandmother could have figured something out better than that. Even she would have known. Not gonna. This guy's a carpenter. He's not a plumber. Doesn't do water work. It's ridiculous.
Maybe he was submitting these requests in hope that the Fort Smith people, like whoever was looking at this, going, okay, this is who they are. They would search for them and go, why are they submitting this bid? There's no reason for them to, and they knock them out so Jake Files' company would be selected.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe also, I don't know. This guy, this FBI agent's been in the Bureau for 21 years, it says. I wonder, and we got to take a break right now, but I wonder if he's ever had the thought if somebody commits a crime because they want to get caught. Because this is certainly a contender. I would speculate. Back in a minute.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action,
Start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Do you need conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number 1 of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of uncle, nephew, and nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you.
Uncle, nephew, and nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions.
Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody. The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, yeah, so we, at least on Twitter, broke the news about the Arkansas Democratic Party calling for Jake Files' resignation. And now we need people to tweet, and we need people out there calling on Asa Hutchinson to also call for the resignation of Jake Files. The Arkansas Republican Party should call for the resignation of Jake Files. Every Arkansas politician in the state should be calling for the resignation of Jake Files, especially Republicans, especially conservative Republicans. Now, I know many of you don't want to do that. Many of you may want to have to check with the governor first before you call for Jake Files' resignation. I'm going to encourage you to not do that. I'm going to encourage you to look at the facts objectively, go read about who this man is, go read about how he is representing your party. And for the good of the people of his district, they deserve an above-board senator, especially in the upcoming fiscal session next year. They shouldn't have to wait till November of 2018 to get, and really it's actually January 2019 before they'd get any representation. They shouldn't have to wait that long. 870-275-9799. Call or text Fort Smith. Let me know what's going on. What do you think about all this? Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Options are on the table. The governor's going to be head and shoulders above any options that anyone else can put up.
Well, he's certainly got a lot of money in the campaign coffers, you know. I mean, as far as, I'm saying just objectively, his reelection chances look really good. I mean, really solid. And because there just doesn't seem to be, I don't look for a primary challenge to come in within the Republican Party. I think a lot of people just ruled that out. The Democrats, like you say, they're going to have to put up somebody. And maybe there's a lot of Democrats that just don't really they don't want to do it. They don't want to run and just
They
be
don't
a
want to fall on
place.
the sword.
Yeah, just be a placeholder. That's what they've got to ask somebody to do is, hey, come be a placeholder so we can maintain our ballot access, and we don't have to do like what libertarians do, and get a petition together every year.
Right. Well, and I think that we're very optimistic. Obviously, you just pointed out we've got well over $1 million in the bank, and we're continuing to aggressively fundraise, continuing to go to events, and continue to hear the extremely positive feedback from Republicans, Democrats, Independents, you name it, of any demographic when we go to those things. And so we're obviously optimistic, but at the same time not going to take it for granted. And we're pushing hard to make sure that no matter who anyone fields, we're still going to come out on top come November 2018.
So, okay, pivoting back to your role as the chairman of the Arkansas Federation of Young Republicans, what is it that you hope to see with the Young Republicans moving forward as the new chairman? Like, what do you have, like a vision that's that's new?
I don't know that it's new. I would hope that I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. Obviously, Arkansas continues to trend more red, and if it's not broke, you don't got to fix it. But the whole time I was running, anytime I was talking to somebody, I tried to make it about campaign experience, and how that works for the Young Republicans as an organization. And so I would like to see more young people obviously become involved in the organization by expanding the number of chapters we have, by expanding the size of those chapters. I will say we had over, I think, 120 people at our convention on last Saturday, and the national chairman was actually there, and he said that this is one of the largest conventions he'd ever seen at a state level. And so that was really promising. And so to see those people get involved and use our organization as a part of the Republican machine to win more elections in 2018. Well, guess what? When you win elections and you become involved and you're a useful force, those people are then going to help you. They're going to help us fundraise. They're going to help us recruit new candidates. They're going to help us grow our membership. And it all works in kind of a cycle. And so I think, synergizing with the Republican Party of Arkansas, the Republican women, the county committees, and so on and so forth, the members of the legislature that, supported me running for this position because this was kind of what I wanted to do with it. I think that we'll be successful going forward and continue to see it grow.
Yeah, growing is certainly good with any organization. And Jamie, I just want to say congratulations again to you, Jamie Barker, and I appreciate you coming on the program, and I appreciate you letting me ask you the questions. So.
Absolutely. Let's do it again sometime.
All righty. I'd like to, Jamie. Appreciate it, sir. Folks, we are going to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment. The telephone number, 870-275-9799. Back in just a moment.
Go back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. It's all go. Let's see here. Everything else on Twitter that's breaking right now. I just want to bring it to you. Yeah, no, not right now. But we do have a text message in from Fort Smith. Appreciate all of you guys out there listening. Let's see here. Paul, as a citizen of Fort Smith, this day has been long overdue. Files has taken over $1.2 million from Fort Smith taxpayers for the sham of a sports complex. As far as I know, the city is only seeking recovery of the General Improvement Fund money paid before checking to see if work was completed. GIF money from the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District. No attempts to recover taxpayer money. Western Arkansas Planning and Development District has the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city administrator of Fort Smith on it. I did not know that they were on the board. That's interesting. This corrupt project runs deep, and this is only the beginning. Lots of payments made without checking to see if work was completed. Good riddance, Jake. You are an embarrassment to the people of this town. Well, not good riddance yet. I mean, he hasn't resigned. He has not resigned yet. Will he resign? Will Asa Hutchinson ask for his resignation or encourage him to resign, or the party encourage him to resign? I mean, you can leave Asa out of this. I'm putting Asa in here because he's essentially he's a de facto head of the party, even though he's not technically. He's the de facto head because everybody's got to check with him and ask how high to jump and everything else. And so based on that fact, that's why I'm putting him in here. I just have this sneaky suspicion, considering that Jake Files was used by Asa to support the internet sales tax, to support, Jake Files is an Asa Hutchinson yes man. That's who he is. And you see the type of people that the governor is comfortable with, carrying his agenda for him. And we didn't have all the facts back then. I mean, you had some of it. I said that the internet sales tax needed to be dropped by Jake Files. I mean, not just because I disagree with the internet sales tax. I mean, that was Jake Files and the Republican establishment's baby. But after the news started to break, I was one of the ones that said, and really from a policy standpoint, from an effectiveness standpoint, Asa should have said, I mean, if you really wanted the bill to pass, Jake Files being on there certainly was a hindrance to it once all the news started coming out about the IRS, about the contractors, saying that he falsified bids and all that stuff. Because my standpoint was, first of all, the people of Fort Smith and that district have not been served well. What number is it, Joe? Will you look up Jake Files' district number? We need to get those maps printed up that has them on there. I mean, I have maps of Arkansas around me, but I don't actually have the district number because it can get kind of convoluted and you can't really follow it. But anyway, the people of District 8, the people of Fort Smith are being disserved because once you have somebody in there that has the appearance of the massive corruption that it does, whether charges are filed or conviction comes or not, you looked at his financial situation. Jake Files' financial situation was dire, which means every policy goal he wants to accomplish down there, i.e. the internet sales tax, the amount of political leverage or potential political leverage for Jake Files to carry this in this agenda or that agenda that's not really his idea was immense. So if you want your internet sales tax passed, once the news broke that Jake Files was in the trouble he was in, he's not the guy to run your bill. He's just not. You want to find somebody that can you imagine? Say what you want to about Dan Douglas. Dan Douglas, Dan that we know of. I mean, Dan Douglas wasn't in the news. Dan Douglas is not in the news. It can't pay its taxes and all this other stuff. I disagree with Dan Douglas on policy. I disagree with his ideas. But he ran the version of the internet sales tax in the House. And he actually, I know we kid and joke about him, but he actually ran it, did a good job running it. I mean, as much as you can do a good job trying to rip the people off and take more of their own money. But you get the point. It comes to of competency. If you're in Fort Smith and you have something that you want to get done in the next fiscal session and you want to try to use your senator, and let's say, you have a change of heart and he's going to act in good faith, good luck getting anything done. Who wants to support anything Jake Files supports now? The people of District 8 are now being disenfranchised, and every day that goes by that Senator Jake Files doesn't resign and a special election isn't called and time to have somebody new seated and put in there for the fiscal session is a disservice to a Republican form of government. It's a disservice to the Republic. It's a disservice to the way we think about the consent of the governed. I mean, we have somebody that needs to resign from office now. He should have done it at 10 o'clock this morning when he was on the front page above the fold of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and he didn't do it. To recap, Senator Jake Files, Arkansas Democrat Party has finally called for his resignation. We are awaiting the Arkansas Republican Party to see if they will do the same. We are awaiting Governor Asa Hutchinson to see if he will do anything and make a public statement. I mean, if he made a public statement, it would go a long way. Certainly, it would. From a political standpoint, it'd be a way for him to flex his muscle and say he's got a little authority. You know. I know for a fact maybe the governor doesn't like some of the independent thinkers in his own party. Well, here's a way to say, I call for Jake Files' resignation, and he resigned. I mean, come on. I mean, if anything, it could be an ego boost. But you should do it not because of that. It's the right thing to do. This man does no business down at the Marble Palace, and we're waiting. We are waiting. Somebody needs to ask Jake Files to resign. Jake Files needs to resign. It's beyond time. It's way past time. It's ridiculous now. It's an embarrassment to the process. I agree with the Arkansas Democrat Party. I have been calling for Jake Files to resign basically, what is it? It's August? For 4 months. And that's 4 months longer than the Democrats. And now that's about to be 4 months and 1 day longer than Asa Hutchinson. So, to recap, Senator Jake Files urged the Arkansas Planning and Development District, the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District, to give $46,000 to the city of Fort Smith for a softball complex. And in order to do that, though, you have to have 3 competitive bids. So Jake Files, according to the FBI affidavit, he decided to falsify those bids. That is according to this affidavit that I've been reading. Can we go back to the affidavit for a minute? Can we finish that up? So then Jake Files decides to, that's in my PDFs. Hang on a second. Yeah, see, on July 14th, so what page is this on? You didn't move it, did you? Yeah. Number 28. So on July 14th and 19th, 2017, Deanna Gonzalez was interviewed. And she stated that on December 29th, Files asked her to open a bank account so that the city of Fort Smith could send a General Improvement Fund program money to her bank account. Files explained to Gonzalez this was necessary for her to do because all of his bank accounts were overdrawn. I have reviewed bank records and have confirmed that Gonzalez opened a savings account. So this is a sworn affidavit by an FBI agent. I have reviewed bank records and have confirmed that Gonzalez opened a savings account ending in 1806 at Armstrong Bank on December 30th, 2017. Later that same day, a wire transfer from the city of Fort Smith in the amount of $26,945.91 was credited to Gonzalez's account ending in 1806 at Armstrong Bank. I know from reviewing, from reviewing bank records that the $26,945.91 wired into Gonzalez's account on December 30th constituted GIF program funds that have been dispersed to the city of Fort Smith from the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District. I further know that Armstrong Bank is a federally insured financial institution, and that's where you get the wire fraud charges. Number 29 of the affidavit, Gonzalez stated that Files instructed her to get a cashier's check in the amount of $11,931.91 and withdraw $14,000 in cash and deliver the cashier's check and cash to Files. Gonzalez told me she delivered the cashier's check made payable to FFH Construction, Jake Files' company, and $14,000 in cash to Files at his address that is stated here in the document. She stated she watched as Files counted the cash out for payments to employees, which amounted to approximately $4,804. So he owed employees $4,804. Gonzalez stated Files gave her $1,978 in a reimbursement. That is a quote, and $1,500 Christmas bonus. Gonzalez said she saw Files place the remainder of cash and the cashier's check in his pocket. I have reviewed records from First National Bank in Fort Smith associated with FFH Construction and their account number. Files is an authorized signatory on the account ending in the number at First National Bank in Fort Smith. Financial institution records verify that an $11,931.91 cashier's check drawn on Armstrong Bank was deposited on December 30th, 2017 into FFH construction account at First National Bank of Fort Smith. This constitutes a monetary transaction in criminally derived property of a value of greater than $10,000 that was derived from specified unlawful activity, namely wire fraud in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 1343. I hope Asa Hutchinson and the Arkansas GOP are listening. Wire fraud in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 1343. I am aware that First National Bank in Fort Smith is a federally insured financial institution. I hope anybody with a shred of integrity is listening. Jake Files should resign. Hello? Anybody out there? Unbelievable, folks. This should have already happened. Should have happened 4 months ago. What is going on? What is going on? Number 31. Now, and after this statement, I mean, do you think Jake Files has read this affidavit? Does he think that it's a conspiracy and that this FBI agent is just mistaken and out to get him as well? I mean, you read that last part. This is from the affidavit. This constitutes a monetary transaction in criminally derived property of a value greater than 10 grand. I mean, you know, it's essentially like gift wrapped in a bow for a prosecutor. Here we go. And Jake Files says that he's going to be cleared of this? That's his public statement. Gonzalez told me Files used a computer at his office or a laptop computer for business. She stated Files routinely carries his laptop computer with him and in his vehicle most everywhere he goes. Gonzalez reviewed the bid that was emailed by Files to the Western Arkansas Planning and Development District in December 2016 for purposes of obtaining the money. She told me that she did not create the bid. She stated she recognized that the format of the bid looks similar to the format of... Oh, man, I've just messed up. I've lost my place entirely. Hang on a second. Hey, what page am I on, Joe? What is this? I'm on 30. I skipped down like a whole page. 1 second. Yeah, here we go. Purposes of GIF money. She told me that she did not... Okay, here we go. She told me she did not create the bid. She stated that she recognized that the format of the bid looks similar to the format of invoices she knew Files uses for FFH construction. Gonzalez stated she believes Files would have created the bid on either his desktop computer at the office or his laptop computer he routinely carries with him everywhere he goes. This is the basis of the fact that the FBI executed a search warrant on Jake Files' office and took the iPad and took the computer. During the week of August 1st, law enforcement officers saw Files get out of the 2016 Yukon XL and carry into his office a brown satchel bag the size of a bag that could contain a laptop. Based on law enforcement's observation of Files carrying a brown satchel consistent with the size of a bag that could contain a laptop, as well as information from Gonzalez that she knows Files to regularly carry a laptop computer, I have reason to believe that Files will have a laptop computer in his possession that contains evidence of the commission of the crime of wire fraud wherever Files may be found in the Western District of Arkansas. Based upon my training experience and participation in other financial crime investigations, I know that A, individuals who engage in illegal activities and money laundering often maintain both personal and business records regarding these activities, including books, receipts, notes, ledgers, bank statements, checks, cash, wire transfers, safe deposit boxes, sales records, contracts, warranties, records, applications, loan payment records, and other financial instruments and papers relating to the generation, secreting, transfer, exchange, and or concealment of these funds. These records are usually kept by these individuals in businesses where they have ready access to them. These records are often kept over a long period of time and may be kept in paper or electronic form. In order to determine the full scope and nature of the wire fraud and money laundering, I don't know if we can call it money laundering. I mean, I know technically we can call it money laundering, but again, this is some pretty terrible money laundering on his part. In order to determine the full scope and nature of the wire fraud and money laundering, it's necessary to seize the computers and cell phones used in these crimes and submit them for a forensic examination to locate evidence maintained on them. Because voluminous amounts of information can be stored in a computer and or removable storage, media, and cell phones, and because evidence might be stored in a deceptive order or with deceptive file names to conceal criminal activity, the searching authorities must examine all the stored data to determine which files are evidence, fruits, and or instrumentalities of the crimes. All right, so check this out. So Files is having his computer and his phone and stuff, his search and everything else. Now, I would just assume that the story that he was basically pinched on the contractors falsifying bids, which that's what they're looking for here. I mean, that was months ago. You telling me he still has that stuff on his computer? It's just a thought. I mean, maybe he does. But, I don't know. You know, they got ways of recovering all kinds of stuff. You think something's deleted, it's not really deleted, you know. I doubt they're going to call in, the NSA on something like this. You know, those tools may not be something that you can actually submit in court. But still, pretty interesting stuff. And again, where's Governor Asa Hutchinson calling for the resignation? Where's the Arkansas GOP? Where are other Arkansas Republican officials calling on their colleague to resign? Jake Files must resign. The people of District 8 deserve better. You deserve a special election. You deserve a senator who will be ready to vote on your behalf in the fiscal session that's coming up next year. And yeah, he'll have to turn around and run again in November. But, I mean, what else are you going to do? You're just going to have not going to have a senator for a year and a half? That's not smart. That's not right. Come on. Do the right thing. Put politics aside. Put the fact that you may lose a yes man aside, which you probably won't, but you might. Put all that aside and call on Jake Files to resign. This is ridiculous. Have you read this affidavit? Has the Arkansas Republican Party read this affidavit? Has Governor Hutchinson read this affidavit? I mean, he's an attorney. We got to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in a minute.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. I'm sorry, Bob, the new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government
better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patients will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP Parody.
Real quick, a flashback. It's a flashback article that is very timely right now. Back on June 28th, David Ferguson wrote a piece. This was shortly after he appeared on this program. This is the former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research. The headline over at Conduit for Action was, "Has the FBI investigation of Arkansas state legislators expanded?" Now, in the context of Jake Files, you guys all got to go read this because David has an incredible amount of knowledge here because he's seen, as the head of the Bureau of Legislative Research, he's seen a lot of politicians go to jail in his lifetime because this is Arkansas. And it's fascinating. Media commentators, he wrote back in June, have been quick to assume this means the FBI is still looking for records. This was the news that the Bureau had hired outside legal counsel to handle requests from federal investigators for documents of members of the Arkansas legislature. Are they looking for records concerning general improvement funds? Months ago, one former legislator pled guilty to taking kickbacks. As a former BLR employee, I think it's more likely the federal investigation has broadened into other areas. Now, if you compare David Ferguson writing as a former BLR employee, I think it's more likely that the federal investigation is broadened into other areas. If you compare that statement with the one that is quoted in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette this morning, where Senator Jake Files says, in trying to blow off this affidavit and trying to blow off all of this stuff, he says that this is old news, same new day, old news, and that he had been asked questions by the FBI because of them investigating other politicians across the state that he has nothing to do with. That is actually I believe Jake Files. I believe he believes that other people across the state are being investigated and he's trying to deflect. Now, the affidavit is conclusive that he's kind of in a little bit of denial, detached from reality. I might be too if I was in his shoes. But go back and read this story. Go to conduitforaction.org. And again, it's David Ferguson. It was back on June 28th. I just retweeted it. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776, so you can get this story if you go to Twitter. And I just retweeted it at Paul Harrell 1776. Again, the headline, "Has the FBI investigation of Arkansas state legislators expanded?" I think the answer to that is obviously yes, because we didn't know the FBI was looking into Jake Files back then. So huge developments today. Corruption has to be pointed out, and I'm so glad that you guys were with me here for this 2-hour period to do it. This broadcast of the Paul Harrell program is available over at paulharrell.com. While you're there, just check out our podcast, check out the video. If you've never done the video, it's a good experience. And if you want to, you can buy our Liberty Machine t-shirts for $20. Liberty Machine t-shirts over at paulharrell.com. Just click on store, and that would certainly help us spread the message. People are going to ask you when you're wearing a t-shirt, what is this? You tell them, hey, I listen to this guy, and we get information that we don't get anywhere else on what's going on here in Arkansas. That's all the time we have for today for our Mountain Talk 97.1 audience on KJMT. Thank you for listening. You guys have one more hour of the Paul Harrell program coming your way next. The rest of you, Arkansas, thanks for listening. Be safe.